I would say ultimately that I really want women to embrace food. Like food is pleasurable and we should enjoy it. And you can balance your hormones and optimize your health with delicious food.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you are all having a great day. We are your hosts, Emily and Luigi from Let's Move Canada. And on today's episode, we're thrilled to be joined by functional nutritionist, women's health coach, and founder of Holistic Wellness, Samantha Gladish, who will share her journey of building a holistic health practice and how she's empowering women to reclaim their energy, balance their hormones, and thrive in their daily lives. I should redo this. I completely choked. I choked.
That was
Uh,
perfect.
you think so?
That was great.
Yeah, I said hormone instead of hormones. Like it's plural, guys. It's not just one. All
One
right,
hormone.
one hormone, just the one. All right, we'll do it again. All right, everyone, welcome back. We are your hosts, Luigi and Emily. One more time, one more time. All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope you guys are having a great day. We are your hosts, Emily and Luigi from Let's Move Canada. And on today's episode, we're thrilled to be joined by functional nutritionist, women's health coach, and founder of Holistic Wellness, Samantha Gladish, who will share her story today about building a holistic health practice and how she's empowering women to reclaim their energy, balance their hormones, and thrive in their daily lives. Now, before I introduce Samantha, I want to mention that this podcast is brought to you by Let's Move Canada, whose mission is to make Canada the fittest nation on earth by 2030. Our podcast aims to raise awareness about the importance of both physical and mental health and to spotlight the people and ideas making movement more exciting and accessible to everyone. And today's guest is someone who truly embodies holistic health in the kitchen, in her coaching practice, and in the community. Samantha Gladish, again, is a functional nutritionist, women's health coach, and the founder of Holistic Wellness, where she's now helping thousands of women reclaim their energy, balance their hormones, and really staying healthy in their lifestyles, nutrition-wise. She's passionate. She's a passionate educator who blends science with everyday wellness strategies. And beyond her credentials and programs, Samantha brings an inspiring message of empowering, showing women how to tune into their bodies, really taking charge of their health, and creating lasting change. Samantha, we're so excited to have you here with us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And that was just a lovely intro. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
You deserve it. We haven't seen you since the summit.
I know that was in June and the time is going by so fast.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you here today and chat a little bit about all the amazing things we heard from you at the summit. But we should start off with your story and getting to know you for the wonderful people who don't know you. So, why
Sure.
don't you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and what first sparked your passion for nutrition and how that has evolved into your coaching and what you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different parts of my story, so I'll try to keep it very like Cole's notes. But essentially, I am very lucky that I grew up in a household where my mother made everything from scratch and being in the kitchen and just watching her cook and be creative and well feed her family, that was inspiring to me. And then also my grandmother who would babysit me, she would also make everything from scratch. So my mom is Portuguese, and when my grandparents would watch me, I couldn't understand anything that they said. I didn't speak Portuguese, but how we connected and communicated was through food. And they had their own garden, and my grandfather would make his own wine, and we would always gather big family around the table, lots of food, home cooked meals. And that is really what sort of inspired me. And I'm not surprised that I'm passionate about food and being in the kitchen and cooking and baking. And I definitely owe that to, my grandmother and my mother for sure. And it's again no surprise that I kind of led into this, holistic health space. I feel like it was just meant to be and a part of my path. From a very young age, I was so interested in health. And I remember this one time when I was little, my parents took me to McDonald's and I wanted a salad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Don't get me wrong, I've eaten my fair shares of like Big Macs and whatnot over the years, but I was just always really health conscious and wanted the healthy thing. And then, as in my teenage years, I was always reading like the Shape magazines and women's health and always into like movement and fitness and exercise and taught exercise classes and Pilates and got my yoga training certification, personal training. I've done so much of it. And then I went to university, U of T, and I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And I just realized kind of partway through my education there at U of T, I was like, this isn't really what I want to do. And then when I realized that you could actually have a career as a nutritionist, like that's a thing. I didn't realize that. And then basically I graduated from U of T, and then the first thing I did was go and study holistic nutrition and functional nutrition, and then essentially started my own business.
Amazing. That's
Yeah.
Really cool.
so you were
Thanks.
an ingredients household growing up.
Pardon
Have,
me?
have you ever heard that trope of people saying like, "Oh, you're an ingredients
I've
household"?
never heard that, and I love that.
Yeah, no, I grew up as an ingredients household kind of gal too. So it's like
Okay.
you're 9 years old and you want a snack, and your friends have cookies and gushers or whatever, and you have like flour, wheat, there's some maple syrup.
Make
If
it
you're
from
lucky,
scratch.
there's some whipped cream.
Oh my God, I've never heard that, and I love that so much. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we definitely had, snacks and things like that on hand. I remember, I don't know exactly what they're called. I think they were called like Lunchables.
Yeah.
Were they called Lunchable? Okay. So I
Mhm.
remember going to school and seeing the kids with their Lunchables, but I had like a homemade meal or like, a homemade sandwich and fresh baked cookies or whatever it was. And I was like, no, I want the Lunchables. And for weeks, I begged my parents for it. And my mother was just like, gross, but fine. And she gave in this one time. And I don't think that lasted very long. But yeah,
All you had, and you're like, "Oh no, I want my sandwich
yeah,
back."
totally. Totally.
Nah,
Yeah.
that's pretty funny. Yeah, I was definitely one of those kids as well. I always wanted a Lunchable, but anyway, I think more than ever now as an adult, I definitely have an ingredient house. What's the term? Ingredient household?
Yeah,
Ingredient
that's
household. Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
definitely part of that crowd now. Like
Yep.
I,
Awesome.
as much as I do like my cookies, I also, some hummus and listen out. I'll do it.
That's
Um,
great. I love it.
I'm very curious. So going back a little bit to your story. So after college, you went into holistic wellness, holistic nutrition,
Yeah.
and that has led you to become such a trusted voice in helping women balance hormones and find more energy. Can you tell us what that specific part of your journey looked like and what keeps you motivated?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the motivation for sure just comes from my clients being able to see their transformations and be a part of their journeys and witnessing their how they transform mind, body, spirit, all of that. Like that is really what motivates me to keep me going. And I'm just inspired by them. I'm so inspired by my clients who show up for themselves and want something different for themselves. So I'm just truly, truly inspired by that. I don't know if I think I missed the other part of your question.
The other part was like, can you tell us how you kind of like got into like from holistic wealth to like where did you start it to think, okay, hormone for women's like that's where I want to focus on. Like how did you really start finding your specialty?
Yeah, great question. So when I first started, and I think that it's often the case with many coaches or, nutritionists, I was like, oh my God, I can help everybody. I'm going to work with everybody. And that's what I did because I didn't know any better. And so I was working with women and men and families and kids. And it was just a lot because at that time, you're just excited to work with people. And if you have a client that's going to give you money for you to do the thing that you love to do, you're just like, oh my God, yes, I'll work with them. And so that's kind of how it started. And then over time, I just realized, what I didn't love to do. Like, I don't want to, be involved in like kids nutrition per se. Like that just wasn't my area of specialty, or men's health. And it's not that I can't help in those areas. It just wasn't becoming a passion of mine. And so, obviously being a woman and having gone through my own ups and downs and challenges with hormones and coming off of like the birth control pill and whatnot, that was something that I was finding was a commonality among a lot of the women that I was starting to talk to and coach with. Being on the birth control pill and then coming off of the pill and then trying to get pregnant, and then they had all these challenges, or they developed PCOS, and I was just like, okay, this is a story that I'm familiar with. Like I didn't have PCOS, or there wasn't any infertility issues, but just that story of like supporting your cycle when you come off of the pill, and so that, because I knew that story so well, I was able to really connect with other women in that way. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of how it started. It was just like, what have I experienced, and do I feel confident in sharing that experience? And yeah, it just kind of developed from there.
Mhm.
Really, really cool. It comes back full circle.
Totally.
So you wrote a book
I
called
did.
The 30-Day Hormone Solution. Where was that in all of this, in the process? When were you like, okay, did you get clients first and then you were like, I want to write a book? What kind of inspired you to put your knowledge into it?
Well, I knew I always wanted to write a book. And I, it's funny, like every Sunday I had this thing where I would go to Chapters, or I guess it's now called Indigo, and I would go and I would buy a book every Sunday. You guys should see my library. It is insane. And yeah, it does get expensive for sure. And I would go and get a book, come back home, make like a coffee or tea, and sit down and just like go through this book. And sometimes, I would say most of the time, it was actually just like a recipe book. And I would just be absorbed into the recipes. And I would read it like it was a story. I just loved it so much. And so I knew that I wanted to have my own for sure, but that didn't seem at the time on the radar at all. So it took years to get to that point where I was even offered a book deal. And that really just came out of nowhere, to be quite honest. It was just a girlfriend of mine who was working with this great publisher, and she was like, "Oh my God, I gotta connect you because you got a book in you, and I'm gonna connect you." And I was like, okay, cool. And then that's basically what happened. I got connected with them, and we went from there. And so, when I graduated from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition many years ago, I worked in the health food space. I managed a health food store. I went on to become a sales rep in the health space. And so there was, I didn't come out of the gates with this like success of having a business. It took many, many, many years and so much trial and error. And and then, just kind of one day, essentially what ended up happening was I got fired from my job, and I was so excited. I was so excited that I got fired, because basically the universe did for me what I couldn't do for myself, because I had like one foot in the door at this, corporate job, and one foot in the door trying to build my business. And so when I got fired, I was like, I have all the time in the world now to like put my energy into the business, make this grow. And I invested so much money in learning like online marketing and email marketing and lead generation and all of the things. And it just took off from there. And then I, built up this business and career and this expertise and this clientele, and had lots of experience and testimonials. And then the book kind of landed in the time that was, in the right time, in the right sequence.
Yeah, the universe really did do that for you, eh? Like it
Totally.
pushed you into that.
I believe it.
That's really awesome. Now we know that your book has resonated with so many. I mean, to even have that story of how it came about is just fascinating. But to also have the success that the book brings, right? I think
Mhm.
that's just cherry on top of the cake, right?
For sure.
Now, if you had to sum it up, if you had to give some sort of summary of the book, what's the key message you would want readers to take away?
Ooh, there's so many key messages. How do you narrow it down? I would say ultimately that I really want women to embrace food. Like food is pleasurable and we should enjoy it. And you can balance your hormones and optimize your health with delicious food. That is really the takeaway. That's what I want women to take from it. And I feel now, the book was, I don't know how many years old now, but there's a new story in me to tell. There's a new book in me for sure, but I'm just
Love
like,
that.
oh, do I have the time to do that?
The
The book,
universe will make it
Oh,
work. I have a feeling
totally.
the universe will make it work again.
Yeah,
So,
I bet.
like,
Again, in the right time, it will come.
well, we hope to see that day and we're excited.
Yeah.
Where
Awesome.
can
Thank you.
people get your first book?
It's available everywhere, anywhere books are sold, Chapters Indigo, like any store, and then of course on Amazon.
Isn't that so full circle to think that what you were doing every Sunday, go by, someone could be doing that with
I
your
know, I love that. I love it. Yeah, I hope they are.
I'm sure they are. So in observance of Diabetes Awareness Month, because
Yes.
this episode will be coming out then, we want to ask you a little bit of questions about that related to
Yes.
food. So Diabetes Canada reports that about 9.4 of Canadian adults, so roughly 3.7 million people, are
Mm.
living with diagnosed diabetes, and that number is continuing to rise. So we want to know from your perspective, how can nutrition support both prevention and the day-to-day management of diabetes?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's type 1 diabetes, there's type 2 diabetes, and I think specifically we're really talking about like type 2 diabetes here. It really is a lifestyle disease. And that means that it's reversible, which is amazing. And I've worked with hundreds of diabetics over the year or pre-diabetics, and they've completely reversed their diabetes through nutrition, through lifestyle changes. It's 1000% doable. And nutrition, food, protein, fats, carbs, they're healing. They're so incredibly healing. You have proteins that break down into these amino acids that build your neurotransmitters, which play a massive role in your mood and how you feel. You have fats that fuel the brain and build and support your hormones. You have carbohydrates that provide that energy for the brain, which is your main fuel source, your glucose. And we have such an abundant variety of foods, real whole foods to choose from, especially seasonally, right? With all the different changes and what comes
Mhm.
seasonally, which I always love. I mean, I'm not that excited that winter is around the corner, but but with that said, it brings a different abundant of food that you didn't see in the summertime, right? And you're leaning more into those like squashes and those root veggies and more warming foods. But when it comes to diabetes specifically, all those macronutrients, protein, fats, carbs are all essential. And how you balance them is going to look very different for each person based on your lifestyle, based on your sleep, based on your stress, based on your movement and your activity. But we all need protein, fats, and carbohydrates. I am not one that is for restrictive diets or complicated diets. We should be able to enjoy all of those macronutrients. You do not need to go low carb to reverse your diabetes. In fact, the amount of women that I work with who have been ketogenic for many, many years are now insulin resistant because their body does not know how to handle the glucose anymore. And
Oh, wow.
so they eat glucose, they eat sugar, and, they go on a spiral. And so this is why I'm not one to believe that we should be doing any form of severe restriction. Can ketogenic diets support specific health conditions? Yes, like we know that. Um, I think it's for, I'm losing my train of thought now. Um, I can't remember exactly. I had it a second ago and I totally lost it, but maybe I'll circle back to it and it'll show up for me. But there are basically certain severe health conditions where seizures, that's what it is actually, seizures. We know that the ketogenic diet can support seizures. So there's specific conditions where that might be helpful. But when we're talking about like the general day-to-day sort of person who, is just really trying to manage diet, we don't need to be restrictive. And so food is healing and having enough protein, fats, carbohydrates, and choosing the right forms. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, if you're eating Oreo cookies all day long, like, yeah, that's probably going to be a problem. But fruits and roots, those are so mineral rich. And minerals are so incredibly important because your insulin and your hormones and your cortisol and your blood sugar, all of it needs minerals. And so mineral rich food is really important. Protein, so essential because it's going to help stabilize. Same with the fats, it's going to help stabilize that glucose into the bloodstream. So choosing avocados and olives and olive oil, grass-fed butter, ghee, like those are great sources. And then proteins, I am such a big fan of animal proteins just because of the amino acid complex that you get from your protein. So fish and seafood and meats and poultry, there's such a variety to choose from. And of course, have vegetarian sources too. I just think having the best of both is ideal.
I like the fruits and roots thing.
Yeah,
Kind of
fruits and
rolls off the
roots.
tongue.
Yeah, for sure. And it's easy to remember.
Yeah.
For sure. And this is all really good advice. I mean, so fats, carbs, lipids, all of these things, people can have them. Grains, probably, right? Like, as long, it sounds to me like as long as you have all components, but it's balanced, it's okay to dabble a little bit into some candy. So a good mixture of the naturals and maybe some of the process is still okay, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think again, it comes down to what you do most of the time that
Hmm.
counts, right? Like we are humans. We are not robotic and we're just going to be stuck to this one regimen forever. Life is going to happen and things are going to throw you out of track where you're so busy that maybe tonight you can't make your home cooked meal and you are
Right.
grabbing something when you're out. But if you have the tools to know like what to choose, and because you might have a meal that's, kind of whatever you want to call it, a fast food meal or at a restaurant or whatever it might be, that may not be what you have regularly, it shouldn't be something that completely throws off your system just because of that one time. Like you should be in enough balance to be able to handle a few indulgences and treats and things like that here and there for sure.
Mhm.
No, I love that. Love that.
I think half the battle is that when you said like you just need to know what to choose, is that there's so much
Yes,
information out there
correct.
that I think half people don't even know what to choose. And I'm sure from your perspective, maybe it's a little frustrating when you see like the keto diets or any just extreme dieting
Yes.
advice because
Yes.
we see low, there's no sugar everything nowadays,
Uh-huh.
eat this many grams of protein. So with all of that kind of like food noise that we have circulating on social media, are there any food myths that like you would want to bust or any, I don't know, things that we hear constantly that you're like, well, actually,
Oh my God, there's so many of them. And you're totally right when you're like, you must get so frustrated. I'm like, yes,
yeah, I
I
imagine.
do. Well, I mean, the carbohydrates one is probably the biggest one for sure. And again, everybody is bio individual and we're all so different. So the amount of carbohydrates we can tolerate, it's going to look different for everybody. So in my case, I eat a lot of carbohydrates. Okay. I eat almost 300 grams of carbohydrates a day. And someone would probably think I'm crazy. But I also lift very heavy 3 days a week and I'm building muscle. And building muscle is glycolytic. And what that means is you need glucose to build that muscle. Also, if you build muscle, you can better handle sugar.
Mm.
So the carbohydrate myth and going low carb, I think is just such nonsense, and women have really been misled. Carbohydrates also hold on to so much more water in the body. So when you eat more carbs and you step on the scale is probably going to go up. That doesn't mean you gained 3 pounds of fat overnight. It doesn't work that way. It's just that your body is holding on to more water. And so when women take out the carbs and they step on the scale and they're like, oh my God, I lost 6 pounds. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You just lost some water weight. And so then this creates this idea of eat carbs, step on the scale, I gain weight. cut the carbs, step on scale, I lose it. And this creates this crazy psychology around carbohydrates. And so then we restrict and we restrict and we restrict, and you can only do that for so long. And your thyroid, which governs the metabolism in your body, it cannot run without glucose. And the amount of women that are hypothyroid, so many of them, I would say like 95% of the ones that I work with in my practice, they've all been low carb. And
Mm.
so definitely diet is such a big driver of, these thyroid conditions that we're seeing. So that's my little spiel. Carbohydrates.
I was so okay, wait, sorry. Can you loop it back to
Yeah.
the thyroid again? So
Yeah.
why does cutting out carbohydrates affect a woman's thyroid?
So your thyroid, your when most women go to test their thyroid, they get their TSH tested, their thyroid stimulating hormone. And that
Mhm.
is only going to show one piece of a much bigger picture. Okay. Your TSH, it fluctuates a lot. So you can go in the morning, you can go at night, and I bet you're going to get a different number. But there's other numbers involved here. So your T3, which is your active thyroid hormone, and your T4, which is your inactive. So T4 converts in the body into T3. Okay? And that's your active form, the T3. We need this we need all of it. But in order for this conversion of the active thyroid to like function and work in the body, that conversion needs glucose.
Got
So
it.
T4 can't convert efficiently to T3 unless it has sufficient glucose. And there's actually a lot of research showing that women who eat under 100 grams of carbs a day, even 120, we are definitely seeing an increased risk of hypothyroidism.
Yeah.
So carbs are really, really essential. And the other thing that I just really want to mention here, because I think it's important to mention this because someone might be listening to this and be like, okay, she said go eat more carbs. I'm going to go eat more carbs. And you got to be really careful with that. If you're really low carb right now, and then the next day you just decide you're just going to like whatever eat all the eat all the carbs, that's not going to support you. It has to be a very intentional low and slow process to increase those
Mhm.
carbs. Getting from 150 grams of carbohydrates up to 300 where I am now, like that literally took a year.
Wow.
So it takes time, but now I'm at a place where I can fuel my body so efficiently. And I don't have this food noise of like, ooh, can I eat the croissant? Should I? Oh, maybe I shouldn't. That's a bad thing. I don't have that food noise anymore because I know exactly what works for me. And I have so much more food flexibility and food freedom. And that is truly what I want for people.
Yeah. What's your favorite carbohydrate? Do you have one?
Ooh, I love potatoes. Love, love, love them.
Yeah.
Yeah, love potatoes. Actually, you know what? I would probably say sourdough.
Ooh,
Yeah, I eat 2 slices of sourdough every day at breakfast, and
avocado
that's
on top.
love avocado. You know what I've been doing? I put refried beans on my sourdough with a fried egg. That
I
is
might have
like
to stop you there. That's crazy.
yeah, people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "You have to just try it." Okay? They're like spicy refried beans, and I use it like a spread, and I put it on my sourdough, and I put a fried egg on top, and it's just heavenly.
The Brits would love you.
Pardon me?
The
What was
Brits
that?
love you for that one. A
Oh,
true breakfast. A
yes.
nutritionist English breakfast.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Uh, Um, I really like how you talked about how food really connects the body here. And I'm one of these people that I did low carb diet for a while.
Mm.
And I decided, you know what? I just want to enjoy my summer. And I started eating carbs. And just like you said, I think for a whole week I was so nauseous. It's like that intake of glucose just made you nauseous, right? So I had to go slower. So to your point on how um, food connects to the body, it shapes our mood, it shapes our energy, shapes our mindset even, right? In
Totally.
how what your daily life looks like. So
Yeah.
can you share an example of like a small change that created a big shift for someone you're working with?
Oh my God, I have so many of them. I mean, just I would say majority of the women that I work with are under eating. And so just getting them to eat more food and fueling their bodies more efficiently, like this is just such a common story with so many of the clients that I work with. Just getting them to eat more food literally solves like 90% of the symptoms that they're having. The low energy, the sleeplessness, the hair falling out, the low libido, the irregular cycles. They're just like, I didn't realize I had to eat more food. Yeah, because you are a thinking, breathing, busy woman, and it's your body is burning calories. Your brain is burning calories with the crazy to-do list that you have to do all day. And then on top of that, you're getting in your steps and you're working out and you're moving your body and you need sufficient calories for that. And so it's really important to yeah, to fuel your body, with enough calories, with enough food. And so I would say that's probably like the biggest win that I see across the board is women um, just starting to eat more food. And, within a few weeks, they're like, wow, like I literally feel like a new human.
That's amazing. And would you say that pairing that with some sort of physical activity is helpful? I mean, you just mentioned earlier how it's all going to depend, like the whole picture matters. It's going to depend on what you're doing physical activity wise to balance some of the food you're eating, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like, do you prescribe like yoga? Do you work alongside maybe physiologists to help these women? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I really encourage, I mean, most of the women that I work with, I would say are like mid 30s plus. And so I definitely encourage all my clients to lift weights and to really, build muscle and not be afraid of lifting heavy weights because as you get older, we lose muscle mass.
Right.
And we also, with declining estrogen, our our bone density gets impacted because our estrogen impacts our bone density. And then if you're, muscle is like you got to work it. If you're not working it, you're just going to lose it. And
Exactly.
so I always think about my future self. I think about how do I want to feel when I'm in my 70s and my 80s? Like I want to be mobile, I want to be agile, I want to pick up my groceries and go up the stairs and get in and out of my car. Like I want to be self-sufficient and I'm going to need muscle to be able to do that. And so strength training is something that I tell all of my clients to do. And I mean, if you're brand new to it, that's fine. You start small, you start somewhere, maybe it's body weight. But walking and strength training are probably like the two go-tos. And if you want to have yoga in there or Pilates or something, by all means, if you enjoy those things, but I definitely think strength training needs to be a part of it.
Love, love, love that. This is amazing. Again, hope everyone is listening, right? Samantha's not saying go all out in just one aspect. It's all a balancing act.
For
Everything
sure.
you do, like it matters to the bigger picture, which is probably why people like different stages of life look different for everyone, right?
Of
So,
course.
or it's a good way to think of it.
So, Samantha, with the holiday season coming up, that can be a tricky time for people because there's so many gatherings and treats and traditions, and you don't want to miss out on any of that, but you also don't want to overindulge. So, what are some practical tips that you have from people that can make sure that they enjoy their food, enjoy the holidays without guilt, but also can still keep it healthy and balanced?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do want everyone to enjoy the holidays, and it's probably also that time of year where there's that like special dish that's made only this time of year, right? That you get to enjoy, and you should definitely be able to enjoy that. So, I'll just share like strategies that I include for myself and often with my clients is number one, like movement. Make sure you're getting your movement in and committing to, your exercise or whatever that might look like, especially if you're eating heavier meals, getting in maybe a walk afterwards, because it's just going to help you with digestion. So that's going to be key. Hydrating is going to be really essential as well. I don't drink. I may have the odd alcoholic drink like here and there. It's very, very rare. But it's also just paying attention to how things make you feel. And that's one of the reasons why I don't drink is just because I know I wake up the next day and I've got puffy eyes and I'm like congested and the histamine and like wine, it just reacts with me and I just do not feel great and I just don't get a great sleep. And so Off of that note, I think that it is really important for people to connect with how they really want to feel. How do you really want to feel? And is it worth, having X amount of drinks or X amount of meals? Because it doesn't mean you can't have none of it, but you have to just be conscious and intentional with, again, how you want to feel, how you want to wake up the next day. What are your goals? This whole like, oh, January 1st, I'll start then. No, you can start today. You can start right now in this moment and make that decision for yourself. And depending on what your goal might be, maybe you are diabetic, maybe you have prediabetes, or maybe you do have 40 pounds to lose. Okay, well, let's just get really conscious about what that goal is and where can we fit in some pleasure and some enjoyment. And then also, where can we just like really commit to moving the needle with your health and with your food? There's a way to balance it all.
Mhm.
I know
Mm.
for myself, if I have like we all do, there's tons of different events happening, right? And so maybe one of the like I know if I go to all of them, I don't feel great.
Yeah.
It's like at the end of the week, it's just like, oh my God, like I am stuffed. I don't feel good. It's just, it so takes me out of my routine, and we all probably love routine. And so sometimes it's like, okay, well, maybe I'm going to show up at this party after the dinner because I'm going to have my meal at home, and this party is happening and that's the meal I really don't want to miss. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going there, and again, it's just like getting really conscious about like what matters most and
Right.
where maybe do you need to make a few sacrifices, because in the grand scheme of thing, is it really going to make that big a deal for you to sacrifice that one thing? Probably not. Probably not. And how you're going to feel and show up for yourself, that's going to be so bigger and so much more longer lasting.
Really love that message. Makes perfect sense. And now I have to know, with your book, do you have a favorite recipe that you always do on the holidays? Like there has to be something in there that is your
Oh,
go-to.
um, that's a great question. There is a really great cake in there. I'm like, is it, did I put, I'm like trying to think now, did I put the mint one in there or is it just the chocolate one? I can't even remember, but there's a delicious cake in there, which I love. The short ribs, the slow cooked short ribs in the Instant Pot is probably like a go-to that we often make, and with some like mashed sweet potato around it. Like that's a really great meal. And it sounds so fancy, but it's not. Like it looks fancy with like very little work. So highly recommend that one.
This is great. This is great. I'm sure people are going to love that one.
Yeah.
Now, for anyone listening who is just starting their health journey and maybe feel overwhelmed, what's one simple practical step they can take today to begin moving in the right direction?
So the tip that I would share, which is probably the thing a lot of people maybe don't want to hear or don't want to do, is I would actually suggest people start tracking their macros. Track your proteins, your fats, and your carbs. Weigh your food and do it for the next 2 weeks. Track your food because it is going to give you so much data into how much you're eating or how little you're eating. And the amount of women that are like, oh, yeah, I eat enough protein in a day. And then they track for 2 weeks and they're averaging like 60 grams a day, when on average, at the very least, we need at least 100 grams a day. And it's
Wow.
like we wonder why, when you're like I mentioned earlier, protein impacts your neurotransmitters, it impacts your mood. It has such a major impact on anxiety and depression. And then we wonder why women feel so anxious or so moody and so irritable. It's just because you don't have enough protein. So getting in enough protein is essential. And it's probably one of the biggest things that I hear from people is that um, once they started to eat more protein, like their moods just completely transformed. And so when you track, you have data, and then you can really just be honest with yourself and you can look and see, okay, am I eating enough protein? Am I eating enough food overall? How much carbohydrates do I eat in a day? How much fat do I eat in a day? What are my eating habits kind of looking like Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Does it all just kind of go off the rails? And this is where I always start with people. It's like, okay, great. You have a goal of optimizing hormones, whatever it might be, weight loss, I need you to go track for 2 weeks and give me that data because then I have a starting point and I know where we're going to go from here. Um, and then just going back to that question about like the holidays is getting in enough protein, like making sure there's protein at each meal. That's going to be essential, including some fiber. So, really great vegetables. And again, those root vegetables are going to be great. Apples, pears, which are very in season now too. Like those are loaded with a lot of pectin, very fiber rich and really good for the gut. So, like getting in things like this is going to be really healthy as well over the holidays because it's going to satiate you and balance that blood sugar. So, that's going to be really key. So, just circling back to that for a second. But yeah, I would say the first place to start is when it comes to your food and you are really trying to figure out how to optimize your health, your hormones, your weight loss, whatever it might be, whatever health condition you might be dealing with, nutrition is going to play a massive role in your healing journey. And if we could just get really honest with ourselves and start tracking and get some data, it's going to be so eye-opening. And from there, this is where we can really start to make some positive change.
Amazing.
Amazing. I really love
Awesome.
that. Again, at the end of the day, the message is start where you are. Just start. Be
Absolutely.
strategic. And it's the same thing with physical activity. And I would argue with a lot of aspects of life. You start where you are, get some data, see where you are, and you start making decisions on where you go to make it better. So
Totally.
I think
Amazing.
this is such a great message to end on. Samantha, thank you so much for being here with us, for coming, sharing your story, sharing your tips of wisdom, and sharing some delicious meals with us too. Like I think this is
Awesome.
a lot of fun. I might take you up on that chocolate one.
Yes, absolutely. You should. And the gluten-free banana muffins are like a favorite. Those been shared like all
Hey,
over social media. So make those ones because those ones are really great too.
noted, noted.
Yeah.
Thank you
I'll be
so
coming
Awesome.
over for short ribs. You'll see me at your door.
Awesome. Okay. Yes. And please
much.
tag me and take pictures and share with me. I can't wait to see.
Oh, 100%. And also thank you to everyone who tuned in to this episode. If you're making anything, definitely tag Samantha and tag us too. We would love to showcase the amazing things that you guys are cooking up. If you want to learn more about Samantha, even to get her book, you can follow her Instagram at I am Samantha Gladish, all in one word. In addition, make sure to check out our Instagram at Let's Move Canada for latest updates and head over to our website at letsmovecanada.com to learn more about our mission. Do not hesitate to DM us if you're interested in being a guest or if you'd like to recommend someone. And please stay tuned for the next episodes. They're going to be great. See you folks next time.
Bye, guys.